Did you know that there's a growing threat in the United States? The possibility of a military war looms, and the Taiwan issue could be the trigger. Ray Dalio, a prominent figure in finance and investing, believes that focus should be on containing the issue rather than escalating it. But what about China's domestic concerns? How do they deal with their own issues like demographics, corruption, poverty, environmental issues, and the impact of COVID-19? These are the real challenges that they face as a country. And today, let's talk about what Ray Dalio thinks of China's financial collapse and what it could mean for everyone. Hey friends, welcome to Capitalista. Before we dive in, please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. According to Ray Dalio, it seems like China made a pretty big mistake by not taking the vaccines that were offered. At first, they seemed to be doing a great job of handling the situation, and everyone thought they had things under control. However, since they didn't have any cases of COVID in China, they didn't have any immunity, and they didn't have an effective vaccine to protect themselves. As a result, they found themselves in a pretty difficult situation, with the opposition being just as strong as the United States and its allies. And now we find ourselves in a conflict that could lead to different wars. Typically, this starts with a trade war, a technology war, a geopolitical influence war could then escalate to capital and economic warfare, where we are now with sanctions being imposed. In the past, when there were conflicts, war was often the result. It's a pattern that's repeated itself throughout the history, and by studying it, you can gain a better understanding of current events. Ray Dalio likes to look at this pattern or template and then use it as a guide to see where we are in the present. You may have heard that China holds a lot of American debt, and the question is whether we should be worried about it. Well, according to Dalio, China should be the one worrying more. He doesn't think they'll sell the debt, and even if they did, the US would simply print more money, which would cause the value of the debt to go down. China has known for a long time that they're in a position where it'll have to stick with that debt. They've been producing goods cheaply and earning money from it, and then they lend that money to us. It all started when the per capita income in the United States was 40 times higher than in China, and yet they were still lending us. We borrowed the money and they buy our bonds. It's hard to say who got the better deal, but that's how it happened. The population in China is over 4 times larger than that of the United States. Since 1984, per capita income in China has increased by 27 times. If it were to reach even half of the US per capita income, China's economy would be twice the size of the US. That's some serious growth, making China a major force to be reckoned with. In a world full of risks and uncertainty, China is trying to become more self-sufficient, and so are other countries. Everyone is worried about getting cut off and left high and dry. Even the US is trying to be more self-sufficient, and that's saying something. Now, you might be wondering why China didn't denominate its exports and trade in its own currency or denominate its lending. Well, it's because they didn't want to come across as a threat to the US. It's a pretty bad move, and China didn't want to step on any toes. But now things are different. China has become the largest trading country in the world, and the US is starting to feel the heat. To put it simply, Ray Dalio believes that China could operate on an international level with their currency for a long time, but they chose not to because they saw it as a threat. However, things have changed, and now China wants to be as great, rich, and powerful as it can be without disrupting the world order. Dalio compares international relations to Confucianism, where each country knows its place in a tribute system. This means that other countries pay respect and operate in harmony with the country that has the power. China doesn't want to dominate the world or start a war, but they want to be strong and prosperous. It can be hard for Americans to understand this because they hold the American dream close to their hearts and believe in equal opportunity. Speaking up and expressing your opinions can be difficult, especially when your views may not align with others. Ray Dalio understands the value of being able to speak out, but he also recognizes that it can be tough for some Americans to grasp why others may have a different perspective on what works best. He cites a cultural case in the NBA, where an individual spoke out on Hong Kong and China punished the team and the NBA. In Ray's opinion, everyone should have the right to their own opinions and free expression. Still, China's leadership operates from a different set of internal values based on Confucianism and its history. Their system is more autocratic, top-down, and hierarchical, and they're mostly concerned with maintaining the power of the Communist Party. This is something that they view as being similar to Americans wanting to uphold the power of the Constitution. However, when Americans think of the party, they imagine multiple parties competing against each other, whereas the Chinese envision a top-down hierarchical structure. A Chinese vice president once described it to Ray as top-down Americans versus bottom-up Chinese. The bigger question that arises is whether Americans are fighting for democracy and capitalism, or if they believe that others can find their own approach and let the best approach win out. These are significant questions that require thoughtful consideration as we move forward. Ray Dalio explains that while his approach to understanding China may differ from others, it's important to recognize that the Chinese hold their beliefs just as strongly as Americans do their constitution or freedom of speech. He likens it to religion and believes that each culture pursues its deeply held beliefs to achieve the right outcomes. But what do we do about this? As consumers who purchase products made in China or businesses interacting with China, we need to consider the issues at hand. Ray relies on both sides' government guidance and has studied China's history to better understand their society. He believes that broad-based education and meritocracy are universal elements that lead to success in any country. However, China has been ahead in certain areas such as the printing press and currently has a capitalist approach to entrepreneurship, though it's labeled as state capitalism. Ray acknowledges that there's always a balance between being revolutionary and maintaining order, and he feels that China has become too autocratic in recent years. Additionally, he notes that there's not as much open dissent in China compared to the US, but dissent still exists below the surface. So what do you think of what Ray Dalio says about China? Do you think the US will be affected in case of a huge Chinese financial collapse? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section down below. And that's it for this video. Make sure to show your appreciation by giving a thumbs up, subscribing to the channel, and turning on notifications. This way you'll always be in the loop and never miss out on any of our uploads. Until next time, and take care.